How's it going, everybody? I just wanted to do something a little interesting, maybe a little different from stuff that I've done in the past. Long story short, I was studying. A particular topic came up regards to hypoglycemia with certain basal insulin levels and dosing and things of that nature. But it made me curious, so I Googled something because sometimes these articles come up and they go away, and they come up and they go away. But anyway, here's one from October 15th, 2018, and I thought the title was interesting. More interesting is where it came from. I'll explain that in a little bit. So, experts are skeptical on claims that intermittent fasting can reverse type 2 diabetes. Now, as you'll see with a lot of articles from Healthline, they use a lot of subtle wording to push the way they want you to think about something. That's kind of how any journalist, a successful journalist is usually, they're captivating, right? I'm not saying that she's amazing or horrible or any of those things. Anyway, so experts are skeptical right off the bat. That's going to draw your attention, like, oh, these experts, what's going on? Intermittent fasting. So rather than just using fasting, everyone liked to use IF because it was like super hip back then in 2018. This was huge. It was blowing up back then, right? Can reverse it. So before I start scrolling, I haven't read this entire article, but this is how I think it's going to go. They're going to show you something that happened. They're going to try and find some way to show how insignificant these results are. And then they're going to bring on these experts who are just going to be like, whoa, whoa, danger, danger, Will Robinson, danger. I bet $1 billion that's how this is going to go. $1 billion. So I've only been to about like right here-ish. And I thought, wait, let's stop and let's do this. So anyway, here we go. A new study involving three men concluded that occasional fasting can help reverse type 2 diabetes. Obviously, that makes sense physiologically. 3 men with type 2 diabetes were able to stop insulin treatment altogether after intermittent fasting, but experts are warning people, basically, that they shouldn't do this on their own. Okay, that's a little different than warning against this. Obviously, you shouldn't try to reverse this kind of thing on your own unless you're doing it very gradually, like any weight loss or health practice or self-wellness care. So a small study was published, looked at 3 men between the ages of 40 and 67 who tried occasional fasting for approximately 10 months. Occasional. It's a very interesting word. Kind of, I don't know, maybe put some doubt in your mind. Like, what's occasional? Was it really occasional? Is that exactly how it's supposed to be worded? Was it regimented? I'm pretty sure it probably was a regiment. But anyway, all of the men were able to stop insulin treatment within a month after starting the intermittent fasting. Let's read that again. All of them, all 3, which, sure, not too many guys, were able to stop treatment within a month. I feel like that in itself should have been, the highlight of the world for a particular amount of time, because this is obesity or adult onset type 2 diabetes is one of the, in my opinion, most serious conditions that the world is experiencing today. I think it impacts every single chronic health condition, even autoimmune conditions. I think it has an impact on everything and how your body is able to respond to it or not respond to it. So, shows that a dietary intervention, therapeutic fasting, I don't know why that has to be considered an intervention instead of just, like a particular dietary lifestyle, has the potential to completely reverse type 2 diabetes, even when somebody has suffered with the disease for 25 years. That's common. A lot of people think that once you've had this disease for a certain amount of time, there is no coming back from it. Now, if your kidneys are completely shut down, your pancreas is just like, peace, I'm out. You've been on insulin for so long, your arteries are just completely basically what I'm trying to say is, yes, I'm sure there is a certain point where you can no longer return. However, even after having it for 25 years, this guy came back from it. Maybe he is an outlier, or maybe not. Let's see what they try to do. So, Fung's assertions that type 2 diabetes can be reversed is contrary to the views of other diabetes experts. Duh! The last thing doctors want people to realize, and not all doctors, I get this, I sound a little crazy. But the last thing most will say, pharmaceutical companies, which are essentially in charge of what doctors do or say and what trials get ran, they don't want people to get off all their diabetes medications because they get off their medications for diabetes, they're most likely going to be getting off of all of their hypertensive medications. They're going to most likely be getting off of all their lipid controlling medications. And who knows, there's a lot of psychiatric or psychological effects of being on diabetes, on insulin and like a diabetic regimen. So there's even implications that you could be off of your SSRIs and or mood stabilizers, or at least a reduction in the dosing. And again, this is 100% my opinion and my opinion alone. So anyway, here we go. Dr. Robert Gabby, Chief Medical Officer at the Joslin Diabetes Center in Massachusetts, agrees. We don't think of reversing it, but more that it is in remission. Still need to screen for complications as far as, in remission. This is another expert trying to basically make you believe, subtly, that this is a chronic thing that you will have forever. That your body's inability to respond to insulin is forever. You did this to yourself. Well, actually, they kind of remove that now, right? They want you to think that, we just don't have any control over it. We have no control over it, but this cancerous thing it's in remission. It's like, dude, how morbid can you freaking be? The guy just took 3 people off of all their insulin in a month, and you're being this morbid about it? That just kind of shows you how sued doctors have been for them to speak this way. Like, they can't have any optimism whatsoever. Blah, blah, blah. More than 30 million people in the United States have diabetes. That's a lot more than that. 95% of them have type 2. Yeah. Duh. So anyway, in a person with type 2 diabetes, cells don't normally respond to insulin, which helps control the amount of sugar in the blood. Basically, insulin it's like think of a pendulum or a teeter-totter, right? Blood sugar goes up, insulin then goes up. Blood sugar goes down, insulin then goes down, right? That's how it works physiologically. Let's see. Okay, results from the studies. We know this. That's simple. 3-minute attempted intermittent fasting. Oh, there we go. And to see the impact it had on their diabetes. 2 of the men fasted every second day for 24 hours. Every second day for 24 hours would be considered like an every other day fast type of thing. The 3rd man fasted for 3 days in a week. So every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So these guys basically did almost the same thing. Maybe he just didn't pick it, or maybe he only did Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Whatever. They basically did the exact same thing. On days when the men fasted, they were allowed to drink low-calorie drinks such as water, tea, coffee, or broth. That's pretty common. And they were also permitted a low-calorie meal at night. I'm going to assume that it was either a super complex carbohydrate or primarily fat and protein, but it doesn't really matter. Fasting is literally the oldest dietary intervention known to man. Yeah, People have been doing it for a long time. There's a lot of books about it. And as far as you are concerned, being the public, physicians always urge caution around things that could technically make you better forever. And that, again, sounds a little tinfoil hat-ish. But just think about anything that you've ever, let's think, anytime you bring up exercise to your doctor. First, most doctors have no idea what exercise is. They envision like Bowflex commercials and Tybo and things of that nature, which is ridiculous. In reality, the best exercise regimen for any insulin or blood sugar related type resistance training, lifting weights. You have to use resistance training. Aerobics, kind of good, cool, your heart's going to improve. But anytime you're lifting something, resistant training, it is removing the need for insulin to induce a physiologic change on the GLUT4, just means glucose transporter 4, which is on your muscles and fat, right? So when you resistance train, there's a conformational change, and then you no longer technically need insulin to absorb the sugar, right? That's usually that's the clearest way to do that. So I don't know why they always just say like exercise. It's so stupid. I don't understand how they don't know this. They're really smart people, but they're just like almost, I don't know, it reminds me of just like they're just blind, intentionally blind. Maybe they just don't want to know, or they're so overworked and so sued that they just can't think to themselves. So here we go. Of all the experts who spoke with Healthline, All of the experts who spoke with Healthline urge caution when interpreting the results from an anecdotal study. That's not a loaded statement. To many people with diabetes, such a study conclusion can be perceived as insulting. A registered dietitian specializing in diabetes. Oh, wow, registered dietitian? Man, I'm sure you love the food pyramid. Maybe you don't, Raquel, but I'm going to say you probably do. Probably don't even talk about anti-nutrients and phytates and lectins and oxalates and things of that nature with your clients. Nah, you're probably like a gluten is the enemy type of person. Maybe I'm assuming too much. Maybe this person is pretty aware. However, I don't think these studies should be insulting whatsoever. If it's insulting, it just means that you're not taking as good of care of your clients as you should be, registered dietitian specializing in diabetes. Anyway, people with diabetes already suffer from the disease prognosis, complications, and limitations. Hence the psychological aspect I mentioned, right? Imagine hearing that the way that they can manage such a disease is to deprive themselves of nutritious foods which provide health benefits as well as energy and pleasure, she said. Pleasure's right. You're right. Sugar does increase your dopamine, makes you feel good. What people don't go into the refrigerator and grab like I don't know, something like broccoli or a carrot when they're depressed. You know, they're not grabbing a pickle, which pickles are like such a cool food. It's like anyway, I love pickles. However, no, they don't. They grab ice cream, chocolates, treats, delicious goodies, right? So, disease prognosis, yeah, that's psychological. The complications, yeah, you suffer from complications because you're not doing anything to fix it. And limitations. Oh, these people are debilitated. Let's make them feel like the victim. Healthline, thanks for not doing anything for anyone ever. So imagine hearing that the way that they can manage the disease is deprive themselves of nutritious foods. No, you're not depriving yourself of nutritious foods. I guarantee you could do this study with very low glycemic index foods and increasing your protein. Granted, if your kidney function is absolute garbage, maybe be a little careful on the amount of protein you increase, but still, most people don't eat enough anyway. But like, that is like okay, let's see if they get better. As researchers, we must invest our efforts into solutions that are more attainable and have more positive health impact for the vast majority of people with diabetes. Our efforts into solutions that are more attainable? These people didn't eat. That's all they did. Like, not even all the time. Like, how can you get any more attainable than not putting something in your dang mouth? That's a doctor, man. Okay. She says fasting for a person with diabetes can be potentially dangerous and requires medical supervision. Yeah. Duh. That should be really obvious. I don't really know if there's a reason to address that at all. The research in fasting is minimal, and we definitely need more well-controlled research trials to determine if there are any benefits, but especially who might benefit? What? Okay. The research in fasting is minimal. The physiology, human physiology, has not changed. Okay? It hasn't changed. The way he just dealt with diabetes here is the way that okay, so you can't really think about primary hormone disorders in the same way as you think about this. Think about diabetes in the same way about steroids, right? So, if I take steroids for, let's say, 6 to 8 weeks is a usual cycle, right? Some people blast and cruise for a long time. That's neither here nor there. However, when I get off of the steroids, you take something called PCT, post-cycle therapy. A lot of it has to do with Clomid and aromatase inhibitor, which inhibits the peripheral conversion of basically, it stops you from having more estrogen, right? Because that's a big deal, right? You're naturally suppressing your own body's testosterone by introducing supraphysiologic levels. So, what happens? Unless you do this for a very, very, very long time in super ultra severe levels and you don't take care of yourself afterwards, your testosterone will come back. It comes back because you remove the exogenous testosterone. Your body says, whoa, We need more testosterone. You know, those receptors, the testosterone receptors that are now down-regulated, which is basically what sensitivity and insensitivity is, become super sensitive. So it balances it out. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay? Physiologically, that's how everything works. If I introduce a ton of thyroid hormone into you, your body is going to drop its thyroid. The TSH is going to go down, and you're gonna have less naturally producing. You're not going to produce as much thyroid. Your thyroid gland will actually get smaller, right? And then if I remove that thyroid hormone that you're not taking, which it's in some diet, like pills and stuff too. It's kind of interesting. If I remove that, your thyroid level will come back to normal. Eventually, you will produce more thyroid, right? Insulin works freaking same way. Testosterone works the same way. Estrogen, I think girls' bodies and hormones are really complicated. But again, same way. So, the fact that you're saying we need more well-controlled, it's so stupid. Hormones are hormones. And exogenously introducing hormones has the same effect on all hormones. You introduce hormones, your body's natural production of them decreases. You remove that, it goes back up. And the amount of time that you introduce those, the longer, in some cases, it takes to go back up. Or if it might even reach that normal level in the first place. This isn't complicated. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows this. It's basic human physiology. And if I sound like I'm upset or condescending, or even maybe being a little rude, it's because I care about this a lot. And it's really frustrating to see people in my field fail everyone around them all the time. We're not even going to get into the whole coronavirus thing. But anyway, disordered eating patterns are quite common in diabetes, and I would be very concerned about the long-term consequences of fasting. Many people may feel low energy, low mental concentration, low reflexes, headaches, lower immunity, and as a result, have their quality of life and productivity. Okay. So disordered eating patterns are quite common in diabetes. Yes, you have to have a disorganized or disordered eating pattern to get diabetes. You have to, on your own, us, we have to increase our blood sugar, to a certain point that we are no longer able to respond to the insulin that has been trying forever to get it back down. That's all insulin. I mean, it does a lot of other things. But one of the primary effects of it, for the purpose of this, is to reduce blood sugar. But we just keep shoveling shit into our mouths. It will never, ever just finally go all the way down. And whenever that hormone is up, just like we just talked about, eventually your body becomes less sensitive to it, or insulin resistance. Maybe that's what you hear. Diabetes is insulin resistance, right? So that's obvious. I'd be very concerned about the long-term consequences of fasting. Are you kidding me? Centurions, people that live to be 100 years old or more, the only thing that they have in common, it's not race, it's not sex. Sure, I think most of them are women, but it's caloric intake. Reduced caloric intake is one of the only things that if you reduce caloric intake throughout the course of your life, that will guarantee that you live statistically longer. That is one of the only things out there, right? Long-term consequences of fasting. These people just reverse diabetes. You want to talk about the long-term complications of diabetes and how it affects every single organ system in the entire body. We can do that. The long-term consequences of getting rid of diabetes is they live a healthy life. They're not on insulin. Their blood pressure is probably going to go down because they're losing weight. Their lipids are going to freaking finally regulate. Everything is going to get better. That's the long-term consequences. See, consequences, long-term that is in itself so loaded. Many people feel low energy, low mental concentration, Okay, so what they're trying to talk about is the brain fog associated with ketosis, or, and I'm not even saying ketosis from being like on a ketogenic diet entirely, right? A little different. They're talking about the initial, your body has not been in ketosis for so long, and naturally our bodies, we're supposed to eat, 1 to 2, sometimes 3, whatever meals a day. Your body is constantly going in and out of ketosis. It's not one of those things that just stops, starts. And I know people like to set a certain level of ketones that need to be in your urine for you to be like, oh, I'm mighty and in ketosis. It's stupid. Everything in the body is a spectrum happening all the time. Ketosis is going on right now, Even if you just had a big freaking Subway sandwich, it's just going on a lot less. So there's a lot of upregulation of enzymes that have to occur whenever you try to start introducing a process or a state that your body hasn't been in, maybe ever. So yeah, you feel a little low energy, a little low mental concentration. That's probably going to go back to the whole people thinking breakfast is the most important meal of the day and how it affects concentration, all this stuff, which is obviously wrong. Headaches, brain fog, yeah. Lower immunity, that's ridiculous. Being diabetic is one of the worst things that you can do for your immune system. Fasting is the best thing that you can do for your immune system. Look up autophagy or autophagy if you're a jerk and like to quote or change the way people say things. I don't care. Look that up. Look it up. Please, just do that. You can pause and go look it up right now. As a result, have their quality of life productivity suffer. Oh my God. So basically, a condition that's going to affect your life forever. The fact that you might have brain fog and feel a little, hungover maybe for a couple days, and then never again feeling better than you ever felt in your entire life. Yeah, I agree with you. Thanks for not giving your name. Wright says fasting doesn't always have a positive effect for people with diabetes. No. That's not true. Fasting will always have a positive effect for anyone, regardless of diabetes or not. However, a lot of people do it incorrectly. A lot of people cheat whenever they fast, and a lot of people aren't honest whenever they fast because there's this stigma about failure that is very rampant and shaming people for being overweight, which is so stupid. And I like to consider obesity and being overweight, it's really a product of misinformation that we've been fed ever since. I mean, most people that are in their 40s and 60s that are overweight now grew up with a food pyramid and were told that fucking grains were the most important thing. Sorry for my language. Were the most important thing. It's silly. It's okay to fail diets. It's okay. This mindset is so horrible and toxic. But to try to straight up say fasting doesn't always have a positive effect for people with diabetes is wrong. It is very, very wrong. The fasting and the way that the fasting was incorporated was wrong. That is what made those people, whoever you're referring to, not have a positive effect. Okay, for diabetic patients, especially on insulin, fasting can cause hypoglycemia. Yeah, duh. Especially on insulin. Insulin is removing the body's physiologic response to glycemia, sugar, glucose. So, if you're still taking your insulin and you don't eat, you will become hypoglycemic or have a low blood sugar. That's very common, which is why, obviously in this study, they taper and lower the insulin to create we'll say, a normal blood glucose level, right? So, we see some people that fast or go for long periods of time binge eat when they resume eating, which is counterproductive for diabetes, she said. Okay. So binge eating is never a very good idea, but I feel like I do it. Everybody does. It's not horrible. Your body it's not stupid. It can respond to lots of things. So if you fast for long periods of time and then binge eat, okay, so let's think about this. I don't eat until 10 p.m. Or 8 p.m. Let's say this. And then I binge eat, or I don't know, have 2,000 calories. They'd probably call that binge eating. When I resumed eating. And then I go back to fasting again. Now, instead of eating these little tiny meals or using the freaking analogy of the metabolism as a furnace or whatever these idiots say, I have now went from a time I've made my body think I'm either going to eat or I'm not going to eat. I'm not going to snack. So whenever I eat, and whenever I'm not eating, body, you need to take over and you need to regulate my glucose because there's nothing else coming into my mouth. Yeah, you can't really talk to your endocrine system like that. However, that's how it works. That's the idea of fasting. Fasting is removing more time that you've spent eating. It gives your gut rest and allows your body to heal instead of just bombarding it with more and more food. So I would like to know their definition of binge eating. However, going a long time, most of the day, or even a day without food and then eating, yeah, you're going to have a big meal. And a lot of people encourage you to have a smaller first meal. You can get into the idea of refeeding syndrome and things of that nature, but that's when you go a very, very, very long time without food, like weeks without food. Or more commonly, it's when you go a long time with very little food than it is if you go a long time with no food, which is interesting. So a study such as this gives us clues for further research, Wright added. The research overall on intermittent fasting in diabetics is limited and needs to be expanded before we can make recommendations to support fasting. No, you just need to open your physio book from basic and just read it. And then use your brain. Like, yeah, the research is limited because pharmaceutical companies primarily fund clinical trials. What are they going to try to make you buy when you fix your diabetes, and when your blood pressure goes down, and when your lipids and like everything regulates itself? When you're, wait, does that not? I don't know. The bottom line, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. This article is super healthy. Thanks, Healthline, for being super unbiased and always giving us the best.